Howdy, folks. I almost didn't notice you there. But while I have you, why don't I give you a brief rundown of the Native Americans in our area. Now, Max and I are out in Northampton County area, and today I would like to specifically talk about the borough of Northampton and Allen Township. Now, the borough of Northampton was originally 3 smaller towns in Allen Township: Newport, Siegfried, and Stempton. By 1902, these towns have come together, and by 1909, they had the name the borough of Northampton. But our story today starts thousands of years before the borough of Northampton was even a thought. Today, I'd like to talk to you about the Lenni Lenape. The Lenni Lenape tribe were split into 3 clans: the Unami, which was the Turtle clan; the Unialakticoag, which was the Turkey clan; and the Munsee, which was the Wolf clan. Now, they all spoke the Native American language of Algonquin, and as historians are certain that they were the first inhabitants of Northampton County, they have not fixed a specific time period to when their tribe began. Long before European American settlers settled in Northampton County, the Lenni Lenape lived along the banks of the Delaware and Lehigh rivers, along with their tributaries. The Hockandaqua Creek is a tributary off the Lehigh River and gets its name from 2 Lenape words, Hakun and Dakwe. When put together, this means the stream searching for land. The Lenni Lenape, which stands for the real or original people, lived right across the banks of the Hockey where we stand today. Now, the Lenape were described as warm and hospitable people and had good relations with William Penn from 1681 up until his death in 1718. After his death, his son Thomas Penn took over his duties, and things began to become different for the Lenape. One example of that is this, the Walking Purchase of 1737. These plaques along the Hockey read as follows.
The fleet-footed Edward Marshall and his associates in the day-and-a-half walk on September 19th and 20th, 1737, crossed the Hockandaqua Creek below this point. They spent the first night in the woods near the Hockandaqua Indian town. Immediately to the left of that other sign is another one that reads as follows: Hockandaqua Indian town of the noted chiefs Lapawinzo and Tishkoan, who treated with the Penn proprietors of Pennsylvania in the famous Walking Purchase, was located in the present Northampton upon the east bank of the Lehigh River, 3/4 of a mile to the northwest of this marker. The fleet-footed youth Edward Marshall and his associates of the walk on a day-and-a-half, September 19th and 20th in 1737, crossed the Hockandaqua Creek a half-mile below the point on the stream, and slept the first night in the woods a half-mile from the Indian town. The survey line of the purchase was run later in 1737, 1 3/10 miles to the east. The Walking Purchase was a bit of a sore deal for the Lenni Lenape. They had estimated that the walkers of the purchase would have been able to cover 40 miles along the red line shown here. What they didn't count on was the 3 fastest runners in the colony being hired to do this. So they were able to cover 70 miles and ultimately claim 1.2 million acres. The Lenni Lenape would appeal their northern neighbors, the Iroquois, to assist, but they would side with the colonials. One last little tidbit: if you go back to our Razor Rock episode at about a minute 15 in, we're probably within a couple hundred yards of where they would have actually crossed the Hockandaqua during the Walking Purchase. But without further ado, on to the last location, which is
Indian Tower. The Indian Tower sits at the highest point of the original 5,000 acres of Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Around 1740, the Lenape showed this ground to the first Moravian settlers in the area. The Moravians used this as their original graveyard, and of the 67 bodies buried here, 4 of them are actually from Lenape descent. This monument was erected in 1867 and has the names of everyone who's buried here, including the 4 Lenape Indians. What I'd like to point out on this side of the monument is you could actually still see two of the Indians' names who are buried here. Now, there are two more Indian names on here, but they're very illegible. And would also like to point out that these are praying Indians, Indians that converted to Christianity, hence why they're buried in a Moravian graveyard. And while we're here, let's go take a look at what the first Moravian settlers and the Lenni Lenape were looking at. Being up in the tower, you could really see how valuable this land would be to the Lenni Lenape. You can see for miles in any direction. And what a peaceful spot to come and reflect. So I hope you enjoyed our brief history on the Lenni Lenape in our area. And until next time, there's only two things left to do.
Stay mad.
And stay dirty.
All right.
Hi folks, if you made it this far, there's no funny after credit scene, but rather a chance to read the plaques that are actually at the Indian Tower. Enjoy.